Three, two, one. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Delusions of Grandeur. I am your host, David Streggy, and here in the room with me, I have my good friends Boris and Clark Kent, and I am your kryptonite. Hey, uh, if you haven't already figured it out, we are going to be discussing Richard Donner's 1978 feature Superman, which was leagues ahead of its time.
Good movie.
And a good movie. But let's see what IMDb says about the film. An alien orphan is sent from his dying planet to Earth, where he grows up to become his adoptive home's first and greatest superhero.
That is pretty accurate, surprisingly.
Yeah. This feature is directed by Richard Donner, as I've already said, who has directed such features as Lady Hawk and The Goonies later on. But I know that it was heavily produced by the Sockins, Alexander and Ilya Sokkin, also produced by Pierre Spengler, which history reports that Richard Donner definitely had some very bad relationships with Spengler specifically, and they were purported to film both Superman and Superman 2 back to back at the same time.
Oh.
And they were going so over budget that they had to stop production on Superman 2, which had at least 75 to 78% of the film done to finish up Superman 1. Now, there has been many different people who were asked for the role and stuff like that. But let's go into first impressions here before we get into any of those details. So, Boris, was this a first-time watch for you?
No, it wasn't the first time. The first time was when I was a kid, before I even properly understood what was happening in the movie. uh, so by now I have watched this movie quite several times. It appears on TV fairly often, so I have come across it quite a lot and watched it during lunches and so on. But yeah, yesterday I watched it once more to refresh my memory. Of course, it's a really good movie, very interesting. Even after seeing it before, it's still enjoyable, and even though it's quite long, it doesn't get boring ever for a single moment. So, yeah, and regarding the fact that it was made quite a long time ago, I would say it was made pretty well. And yeah, well, not first, but my impressions are quite positive.
Okay. What about you, Krol? Was this a first-time watch for you?
No. I saw it in the theaters when it came out, so I was about 5 years old. Probably like Boris, I didn't know exactly what was going on, but I love Superman already. My mother had actually seen the special premiere, which was a red carpet event with wine and stuff for adults only. I was mad at my mother because she saw it without me. Again, I was 5, so I didn't understand. Adults only. I just understood my mother went without me. She took me the next day, but so I guess I finally forgave her for that. But yeah, I had already loved Superman, so I had a decent understanding going in of Superman. Um, because of being a fan and the TV shows and stuff. So yeah, I absolutely loved it from the moment I saw it. Like I was saying to Dave, every time it was on TV, I would watch it. I've seen it a few times since on HBO Max. I went and watched all of them. Not long. Uh, Sometime last year, I think. Uh, it's great. It's great to watch at any time. Um, I absolutely love the movie as much as I love some of the other iterations of Superman that they've done. This is still one of the best and still stands up to this day, I think. I mean, the special effects were so well done. The music and everything was so almost flawless. I mean, the movie is absolutely stunning, and it just you can't really improve upon it. I mean, maybe they might have touched up a little bit, but um, yeah, it's still absolutely incredible movie, even to this day and age, with the technology we've got now. Um, I mean, they make a big deal about how he flies in the Man of Steel, but this one he just flies so effortlessly, like it's bird, just like it's nothing at all. It just, which I like. I really like that. I really like how they don't make a big deal of it. It just flies. They don't make a big sound. They don't. I mean, I do like the other two, depending on the mood, but this is still a great out showing of how powerful he is. That flight is not a big thing for him. It's not a big. It's just up and away. As they say. So yeah, I've always loved Superman the movie, and all of them. Christopher Reeve was such a great Superman, absolutely perfect Superman. He played such a great job as the bumbling Clark Kent, and the Superman. It really felt like it was two different people, even though it was just glasses and a uh, different costume. Basically, was the difference between the two. But he made himself look such like a complete opposite of Superman that it was easy to see how people couldn't see him, even though they've said later there was like some kind of magic or whatever. But still, I think Chris Reed did such a great job.
And I'm not sure when I first saw the film. I think I saw it. I didn't see it in the theaters. I know that because
It was way before your time.
it was way before my time. But I know I remember seeing it on television, like on like USA Network or Bravo TV or things of that nature, and I just remember it with fondness because it was the first superhero movie that I remember seeing, at least of the DC. Well, actually, no. I had actually seen episodes of the 1960s television series of Batman,
Well,
and
that was a
I
movie.
did catch television episodes of The Adventures of Superman with George Reeves in the role. But those were for television roles. This was the first live action TV version of Superman, besides the cartoons that we already knew, like the Super Friends and Max Fleshman's the Superman man from like the 1930s. So, but to be honest, I'd actually forgotten that they actually started this film with a little kid reading his Action Comics.
Me too.
Um,
Yeah,
and
Many times I've seen this movie, I
yeah,
I forgot that too. To me, when you think of when it starts, I always think of they started on the planet Krypton, you know. But with the whole sentencing of Zod and Ursa and on, and no, it starts with, like you said, the kid. Somehow we all forget that.
Yeah. But I remember thinking at the time that I liked how pretty Margot Kidder was at the time. As an older guy, I can see her wrinkles and see that she's not as young as she was, but I still think she's very pretty. She's well endowed, and she works great for the role.
Did you say well endowed? Just
Well,
kidding.
well endowed.
Well, you know who played Lon Lang, right? It's the same woman that ended up playing his mother in Smallville.
Wait, that woman played Lana in the third movie, I think.
No, it's the same woman.
Wow, in this one too.
Yes, same woman.
Wow. Huh.
I think she's
I-
way hotter than Lois was. Lois
I-
was not. Margot Kidder is a great actress, but I never thought she was all that good looking, even as a kid.
Well, as a kid, I thought she was
Lana Lang was hot as fuck.
decent.
I love red hair though.
Well, for what this movie was, they didn't like skimp her in any real dresses. I mean, she had that baby doll blue thing going on the rooftops.
I remember
scene,
thinking
but
that was a nightgown.
I was
I really
thinking
thought
that
that was
too,
a
just a
night-
little bit.
I thought it was
but
I thought it was like lingerie.
it's an evening gown,
Oh,
what
I
they
know,
would call
it-
an evening
like
gown.
like he thought she was going to be going out because she's so dressed up. But to me, it felt like lingerie. I mean, it looked like lingerie to me. That was one thing I thought. It felt like lingerie.
Yeah, there was a blue slip underneath, like this satiny looking see-through thing that went down below her knees. So I have seen baby doll like
Do you like
nightgowns
pink?
that look similar to that. I do not like pink at all.
Boris, do you like pink?
Well, we didn't see that on her, only Superman saw it.
But do you like pink?
In some cases, maybe.
Pink is my new favorite color. It's the color of desire.
Well, in any case, the way I feel about this film is, yeah, it's dated for its effects, but it was ahead of its time at the time, and I do still think that this movie does hold up over time, just like you, Mr. Kent. So, that being said, let's go into a little bit more of the plot. So we get an origin story, which is kind of unique because it brings us to the red sun of the planet Kryptonite or Krypton, which there also is a certain rock that's called Kryptonite too.
But there isn't yet because it's the rock that from the shards of the planet that blew up. So the planet hadn't blown up yet, so there is no kryptonite yet.
Yep, and at this moment we see basically the setup for Superman Part 2. Are you outside?
Where is this noise coming from?
Oh, my fan.
We can really hear your fan.
Yes.
But in any case, moving on. I guess we have this moment where we have three prisoners, a female male henchman and a second henchman to
Ursa, Non, and General Zod.
Yep, General Zod, who have evidently started a rebellion on Krypton. and are sentenced to death.
No,
But
the sentenced to the Phantom
Not
Zone.
the
well,
Phantom
there's
Zone, yeah.
they're sentenced to be basically they
Sentenced to hell.
well, their form of hell, which is that flat mirror world, or that screen that you see that picks them up.
Prison world.
Yeah, the prison world. And that's basically the setup for the second movie. To be honest, that's like Marvel's way and trailer of
Except
showing
this
you
is
what's.
DC, and they did it first.
Uh,
Yeah,
Yeah, I must admit this was the first time. I mean, I did see this movie earlier, but I never thought about this much. But this time, I was kind of left wondering why they made that first scene with General Zod when he didn't have any impact on the rest of the plot of this movie. But now that
But
you
he
said
does in
that.
the second one.
Yeah, yeah, I know, but before this conversation, I didn't know that the second one was already being made along with the first one. I didn't know the second one was already planned when the first one was made. So now it makes more sense.
but in any case, so we move on uh, to after this scene to um, a moment where Jor-El, which is played by Marlon Brando. He's got the S on his silver suit. He's got silver hair, and basically, after they put these three into that prison world, they um, evidently there's a theory that Jor-El has that the planet is going to blow up, basically, and they call it just a theory to him. They basically uh, don't believe him, you know. But Jor-El has this plan to send his son to Earth, and that's exactly what we see. We see him sending it to Earth, and honestly, I forgot the uh, that we actually do see the explosion um and the bodies of the Krypton
The
people
big,
falling, you know.
the big Spudao.
Yeah. And we then have the spaceship uh that the child is sent off in, and apparently um Clark Kent here has something to probably say about um, the spaceship here. I believe, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we're saying the spaceship is so unique, and I love how they made it. And when it lands, crashes, no one can tell it was a spaceship. It doesn't look like anything that we would think a spaceship would look like. You know, unlike in Smallville, that was a spaceship. Here, it looked like it could be a falling star or whatever that had fallen. So there's no way to tell that the alien had landed because there's no spaceship. I mean, it doesn't look anything like a spaceship at all that we know
Uh,
of. So, that's what I loved about the spaceship. And I want to point out that I absolutely I love that. That's a really iconic scene to me is when they all saying guilty, 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 and then Jor-El just walking away, basically saying guilty without saying it, and then the glass coming at them and then traveling inside them like yelling and saying they repent and stuff as they're floating away was super 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 super, no pun intended, super memorable. Not the most memorable scene to me, definitely up there. Um, I just love that, and yeah, the whole. I didn't really remember the planet exploding either, which is odd because you would think that was be something you'd remember. Star Wars did right before that with Alderaan, and now they did it again with Krypton. So pretty fucking cool, if you ask me. I like the way it exploded. You seen fragments coming. Fragments look red, not green, but as we'll later find out that there's some fragments fall to Earth in the movies. Not quite like as much as in Smallville, but they had to make a whole show out of it. So,
Well,
but
uh,
I think in the movies we end up getting green, and then we get red. I believe that's it for the movies. I think we get any other colors. But I always thought they were neat, the different colors and what they do to Clark Kent and Superman. So yeah. Anyways, yeah, that's my impression of that scene. Absolutely loved it. What about you, Boris?
I was actually going to say this whole beginning left me wondering one thing. Since Jor-El knew that Krypton was going to explode, why did he and his wife decide to stay there? If they did have a choice to leave, why did they decide to
They
stay?
they actually explained that to him, that they they didn't want to bring any of their faults with them to him. They wanted him to have a fresh start. And like they knew of a lot of things, and Jor-El basically blames himself for the fall of Krypton, which obviously is not his fault. I mean, he's the first to figure it out. No one would listen to him, but
Uh,
he felt like it would be better to to send his son alone without his parents, without their influence in his life. Um,
but why?
well, that's what Jor-El felt. I mean, he just felt like they would corrupt him, and you know,
Well,
Mm,
right or,
plus
right or wrong.
he knew the planet was going to be exploding, so
I would have got
he
out of there with my kid and wife, but that's
Yeah, I mean, if he was the only one who knew that it was going to explode, why wouldn't he want to save his own life?
I agree, but again, they didn't write it that way, and they never have written it that way, or wrote it that way. So
Mm,
even in the Smallville version, they never wrote it that way. Just they you know, he sent his only son. That was his reason. That's what he
well,
wanted to do.
in any case, the child in that that little spaceship ended up crash landing, um, while a husband and wife were on their way back to their farm.
Well, right before that, we
And
do get the scene where he's traveling to Earth, and I just want to mention that because he doesn't just travel to Earth. Jarrell's in there teaching him as a baby about his new planet and everything he needs to know. So he's already coming to Earth with knowledge of the planet and a knowledge of their ways, and so he's already up to, even though he arrives as maybe what, 4 or 5 year old, something like that. He's already well versed in what humanity is, because he learned super speed as well, which a lot of people seem to forget that he's super intelligent as well as strength and all the other stuff. Go ahead.
yeah, and it just so happens that there are four actors who get to play Superman here. Here you've got the the young baby, um, played by let's see, I'm looking here. Baby Kal El is played by Lee Quigley. Then you've got the slightly older um, Kal-El, that I'm not seeing the name of that one yet, but when we have teenager young Clark Kent, that's played by Jeff East. But in early production, they actually had the voice of Christopher Reeves overplaying Jeff East without his knowledge, to be honest. And actually, for many years, Jeff East had an issue with Christopher Reeves over that, but they kind of like, you know,
Well,
settled
I would
things later.
It's Christopher Reeve, OS.
I would I would probably be bummed out too unless it was the deal to begin with. If if I was playing such a role, and okay, if they told me you are going to be voiced over by another guy, okay, but if I didn't know that and then they did that, I wouldn't be happy.
Yeah, they didn't exactly tell him right offhand that was actually going to happen. And in fact, that's not what he thought was happening. He had actually like voiced the words, but then they dubbed Reeves' voice over his parts. And when he saw the movie, he was outraged at the time.
You know what? Oh, I didn't know that they dubbed him in that part. But last night when I watched this movie, this was actually the first time that I noticed something looking a little off in that scene. There was one moment when I kind of had the impression that his lips weren't completely in sync with his voice, and it looked like maybe he was dubbed, but I thought I was probably just imagining it.
Well, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about some of the powers that he exhibits first. After he crash lands, of course, he stands up in the nude. So you get to see a little Kal-El's, family jewels there for a moment. But um, I guess they somewhat maybe clothe him. Or maybe I think he's still naked when he actually goes out on the road there while he's fixing
No,
a tire.
no, they have like a little red blanket or something wrapped around his
Okay.
waist, so he's not showing his super wing anymore. Uh,
Which I guess if things were made now, that probably would not happen because that's technically child nudity, and I don't think that happens as much these days than it did then. But that being is said, Clark here, well, that's not his name as of yet, but the young Kal-El, um, he helps lift the car at that age and surprises both of them. And
the one thing that they say right before that scene, she's talking about basically adopting him without saying because he's like, I know what you're thinking, Martha Clark Kent. That's her middle name was Clark because that's her married name. Sorry, her before married name, her surname. So she was Martha Clark, and then it became Martha Clark Kent. So that's where they got his name from. Clark.
Oh yeah, that's interesting.
It is.
so, even though Mr. Kent has issues with this adoption, because at first he's like, well, let's figure out whose kid he is, and Martha's pretty sure that he's not of this planet, so he's obviously an orphan. So let's take him under our wing and raise him as our own. So they do, and Well, it's kind of interesting that you're picking Waterboy for this next week, because that's pretty much basically what what Clark is as a teenager. He's kind of like the equipment's cleaner, or your surrogate water boy, so to speak. Um, um, at least in his teen years, and it's obvious that the kids on the high school or grounds obviously think he's odd, so they don't really want him to participate in anything. In fact, there's supposedly a party where they're supposed to spin some records that a girl invites him to. And well, some punk kid comes over and says, "You're not
Well,
allowed.
hey,
You're not allowed."
that was
Basically,
a lot of the line, but as far as
The-
only they didn't actually go into that in the movie, not until the third movie.
yeah. But there's reasons why it goes to her in the third movie, anyways. Because Margot Kidder, after Richard Donner was cut from making any more movies, she was very outspoken about the way that he was treated, and how he should have been allowed to continue directing and stuff. So they made sure that her roles were smaller later on. But because evidently you just don't do that. You don't speak out against your producers and expect a major role in future movies. So that being said, going back to this scene, the punk kid ends up showing him all these helmets that he's got to clean, and still he races back home, and he races the train that we see, which gives us that moment of faster than a speeding train, you know.
Right, and if you note that the woman that is there with her child, the woman is the lady that used to play Lois in the TV show. So even back in Superman the movie, they were having people that had already been in previous Superman iterations, which I think is great. They've always done it. Every Superman movie, TV show, it
It's
gets,
basically like a passing of the torch,
yeah,
basically what they do, which is kind of neat that they use
I agree.
past people to.
There's been a few Loises, but that one was probably my favorite TV show Lois back the old TV shows because they had like two or three, I think. I really liked that one that they showed on the train.
But in any case, um, one thing I want to note is that apparently Jeff East, while he was running, doing that running sequence, he had actually um, pulled some really bad muscles during that run as well. That's something to as of note that he was also kind of like annoyed with at the time, but it was done, and ultimately, what happens is um, his Earth father then has a heart attack, and he dies. And we have I do want to say that there is this moment in the small town cemetery where he's like, he couldn't save him, he's got all these superpowers and he couldn't save him, which kind of plays into what happens later. It's kind of a setup moment for what he does, and what he chooses to do later. But in any case, we have the moment where he's out in the fields after said funeral, and his mother comes out, Earth Mother, comes out, and he basically tells her, "I've got to leave. I can't stay." He's got to go, and she asks him where he's going to go. He says north. and then we get him going up to like Antarctica, and I guess he's got this like long cylinder looking like kryptonite rock that evidently he went and grabbed in the barn.
It's not kryptonite or would have killed him. It's
green.
It's a crystal. Green crystal.
Okay, well, it is a green crystal that apparently was sent with him in the craft that he's had since he was a kid. So he takes that out when he gets to like Antarctica area and throws it like, and then up bubbling out of the water rises this crystal palace-ish like thing, where it's got some steps and evidently some ways of using holographic crystal to show show his father. And I guess this is his first time that he's actually seen his father since his space ride over here. So I guess there is a period of time that is that happens here where he is taught what his powers do and what he's able to do, and because you see him being told like certain things, you know, and you get him flying away in his already made cape and uniform, and then you see Metropolis in the next scene with the daily paper, where Clark gets out of the taxi and you see the daily paper for the first time, and you see
Planet.
Yep, the Daily Planet, which was actually filmed inside the New York Daily paper news station. So whenever that happened, that was actually a part of an actual newspaper place. But that's where you see many of the different reporters, and that's where actually I like this shot here because you see it through the lens of a camera at first, and it turns out to be like that young kid that he ends up saving later in the film. He's kind of just like the picture guy, the guy taking photographs of certain events and stuff. He's kind of like the photograph runner, and Clark Kent meets Lois and begins to be kind of like her sidekick, but we obviously see that Clark is purposely being klutzy and purposely fucking up just to show how opposite he is, to try to throw people off for when he actually does go out and do the superhero stuff. So what do y'all think about this meeting of him and Lois and going forward here?
Well, it's an interesting scene, especially with the mugger and how it turns out with the bullet.
Oh, that moment? Yeah. That's after they meet. That's when they leave the building after the first day. They're walking,
there is a bit of a conversation before that.
It's basically kind of like a get to know, and that you're working with this guy, and she's like,
shaking her city beat because not only he knows how to treat his editor, but he says something else, and he says he's the fastest typer I've ever met. And, then he asks for half his check to go to this address, and he goes, "Look, your bookie," and he goes, "No, let me guess, your gray-haired old mother," and then he says, "Actually, she has silver hair," and she just looks at him, "What?" And then she says there, any more like you back home? And he says no. And then
Yeah.
he seems to follow her around like a puppy dog, even into the ladies' room, which she tries to show him.
Yeah, he
What?
gets his
Oh
This
yeah.
is the ladies' room. You can't follow me.
Oh,
jacket caught in the door, and
Yeah.
so he's like trying to politely knock on the door,
And then she opens
like
it up and hands him a letter and says, "Can you be a pet and deliver this for me?"
I mean, he's
yeah.
got. I know he's definitely got better manners as Superman. That's for sure.
And then how was your first day? Oh, it was swell. Swell. There's not too many people in this world that can be comfortable saying that word. Well, it feels natural.
Yeah.
Feels natural to me.
What's such a big deal about that
Oh,
word?
it's just an old-fashioned word, and she's
Oh,
in the comics and everything. She's always giving him trouble how old-fashioned Clark Kent is. Even in the 50s, swell was an old-fashioned word.
Yeah.
Or whenever this was supposed to be. It's not in the 50s, so this probably would have been somewhere in the 80s because he's definitely in his 30s, I would say.
Well, the comics were in the 30s, so
I don't talk about that. I know that. I'm talking about the movie is placed in the originally in the 50s, then in the 80s at the point in Metropolis. So yeah, in the 80s, nobody said swell.
yeah, his Clark Kent's language is that of someone that would have been like 20 to 30
20
years
years
in the
older.
past.
Oh,
So it's kind of like like when Captain America it gets like unfrozen from like in later in Marvel films, especially in the Disney version, not the campy like football hero one. I'm talking about the Marvel one later. Evidently, he gets like hyper freezed, and then later he wakes up and he still talks like he's from like the 40s. So to me, that's kind of similar. But in any case, moving on here. Yes, there is that mugger scene where all of a sudden they stop, and Clark Kent is like the weakest human being that you can see because he kind of goes along with the whole mugger thing.
But
But
one thing I would like to point out that the first thing he did was stand in front of Lois and push her behind him. So even though he was wimpy and a scaredy cat and shit and faints and stuff, the first thing he did was stand in front of the woman, even with all that. So
True.
you gotta remember that even though he was pretending, he still showed a little bravery in that he put himself in front of her.
oh, good point.
Yeah.
True.
But
And you almost didn't expect her to kick that dude's ass before she turned her back on the bullet. You know.
oh yeah,
Oh no,
yeah.
I totally expected that. That's just
You
Lois. Lois is always a fighter.
you beat me to it. I love that moment.
And yet later, when she was in the vehicle, she had plenty of time to get herself out of that fucking car while she was screaming her head off. That's the thing that pissed me off the most. Like she was so badass here. Why was she a wimp there? You know, that to me. But then I guess you wouldn't have a damsel in distress and all that jazz. So.
Plot hole. It's called a
For
plot
some
hole.
reason it just pissed me off because that's not
I
how
agree. They could have made it so
she saw the
that,
fucking
like,
fault line like coming up behind her. She had plenty of time to scramble outside the car and get herself out of harm's way before that fucking shit happened.
or even drive the car out of the
Well,
way. I mean,
Well, car had
it
already
wasn't.
stopped.
either way, she had time, and they should have made it. Well, they should have done it so that she didn't have time.
Yeah,
That the only way for her to survive was to be rescued by him. Because
but
yeah, she was badass, and There's no way Lois Lane was sat in that fucking car waiting to die.
Well, yeah, that
But
fault line
maybe
should have
she
already
did.
been there way before the car stopped. That's for sure. But anyways, that's getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. So let's go backwards. So that's about when we have these coppers who are following evidently the henchmen of Lex Luthor, and uh, this is kind of the introduction to Lex Luthor because they follow him to an underground subway station. The dude follows him into the entrance, and by remote control, Lex Luthor pushes that door outwards, and then basically catapults the dude in front of a running train. What do y'all think about that moment where we first meet Lex Luthor and all that jazz?
Vile and disgusting. I love it. He was such a great villain. To me, Lex Luthor's always been the ultimate villain of Superman, even though you have Darkseid and all these other more powerful men. And the one line I love it about it. Even though I think of Superman as smart, he's different. He's book smart, whereas Lex Luthor is straight and criminally smart. But there's definitely a difference. Like anywhere else, you'd be a doctor. Because there's so many doctors that become evil. But, yeah, Lex Luthor is definitely he's like brains above brawn. And I've always loved that fight as much as I love Superman, and I want him to win. I just love how his nemesis is not super strong, who is just a human being, but always seems to get one up on him all the time. And because Superman's morals, he won't kill him. He'll just put him in prison. Lex will always get kind of the win in a way because of that fact. You know.
Well, normally I save some of these for later, but I just wanted to mention this review from Charles Champlin of the Los Angeles Times. He called the film a big letdown, praising Reeve as the salvaging strength of the film, but referred to the matter of the villain as an essential problem, finding that even in a succession of wigs, Gene Hackman is not preposterous, funny, or dementedly menacing, and what he's doing here is not evident. So,
well, I would like to say to that guy, put your glasses back on, buddy, because you don't know what you were saying.
Well, okay, maybe Lex Luthor didn't feel that menacing, but
Now,
he was still
Gene
funny.
Hackman was
I
great.
still liked his character.
Gene Hackman was great.
Yeah.
He was great. He was just he knew how smart he was.
He was great as the first Lex Luthor.
He knew he was the best Lex Luthor. There's been no better. There's been some
I thought Smallville's Lex Luthor was better.
I loved
to be
him.
Honest.
I loved him, but he was a different kind of Lex Luthor. You can't compare them. You cannot compare them.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't. Well, if you're gonna compare them, then Michael Rosenbaum loses. Even though they were completely different.
I think the worst one was Kevin Spacey, to be honest.
Kevin Spacey was a great actor. But we've only had those, and then we had the one. The worst one was the one Lois and Clark. Quite honestly, he was not that great.
I actually remember liking Lois and Clark as.
I love that show. I just didn't think their Lex was all that great. The Lex in Supergirl, I think, is fantastic. John Cryer was a great fucking Lex Luthor. And then, of course, we can mention the new movies, but that wasn't Lex Luthor. That was Lex Luthor Jr., which everybody seems to forget.
Yeah, he's his own mentality.
Well, he's not Lex Luthor. He's Lex Luthor Jr. You know, he's basically that kid that we see in the third movie that is you know, but he's more to the roots of what the original Lex Luthor was, a mad scientist, not a businessman. The original Lex Luthor was a scientist.
True.
So that's what I loved about the new Lex Luthor. And again, it's a completely different type of Lex Luthor, but it harkens back to the original Lex Luthor.
I would call Gene Hackman's version of Lex Luthor. He's more of a philanthropist because he's got this underground lair where you can definitely see he's a collector of sorts, of various odds and ends, and you can tell that he's got like a business sense about him and things of that nature, and he's got like gadgets. He's got some interesting things going on in his underground lair. And he's got like this cool pool. It's kind of a cool pool. I wouldn't mind a pool like that. As long as it had also a spa, a hot tub. But
yeah,
in
I
any
noticed
case,
his rowboat is still in the water.
Admit it, you just want a woman like Miss Teschmacher.
Mr. Smacker! I love the way he calls her.
Yeah.
And Otis, Mr. Luthor is Luthor, but he never corrects him. But he always says Luthor, Mr. Luthor.
And of course, he tried to name something on his map, Otisburg, later on.
Well, hold on. Before that part, when he's on the ladder, he's like M. Oh, M. Is that better? No. N, like a nincompoop, like a Neanderthal, or L, as in ladder. It was great how they showed him like hanging there with one hand, like effortlessly. Obviously he wasn't really hanging in the bookshelves, but it was really neat how because Gene Hackman, sure, he looked like he was in genius shape, but I don't think he would have been able to hold up that easily with one hand onto the top bookshelf like that. But it was really neat the way they did that. I really enjoyed that part. I also loved right before that scene when, right before he came in, he's like, why am I surrounded by complete nincompoops? And then Otis comes in and he's like, I'm back. He's like, oh, I was just talking about you. And he's like, why am I not reading that paper? Because I haven't given it to you yet. Exactly.
Well, in any case, way before all that, and after we meet Lex Luthor for the first time, is around when we start seeing Superman appear, and the thing is, Lois Lane, she ends up going into a helicopter for some reason. I think that she is trying to investigate something, and she's getting too close to something. So I think
she's going to meet the president for a story.
Correct, and somehow the helicopter is sabotaged, and the drivers or the pilots are killed, and she is hanging out.
The pilots were killed; they were knocked out.
Okay, they were knocked out, but she's hanging for her dear life off the side of the helicopter, and I guess she drops, and that's when Superman comes, saves her, and just goes straight up. And we see him catch the helicopter as it's on its way down.
But before that, we get the best scene in line in the entire movie, which you can't skip over, as he goes and says, I got you. And she says, you got me. Who's got you? The best line in the movie. And honestly, as much as I love Superman, Every time I think of Superman movie, I think of this scene. This is the first scene I ever think of. So, had to point that out.
Well, in any case, he takes her and the helicopter, lands them both safely, and then we see a montage of him saving certain people. Um, I believe actually it's two criminals that he ends up like going up against. So
Don't forget about the
there's
criminal on the window.
Yep, the criminal that was that was was using those suction cups on the skyscraper, and he brought him down to the cop, and he was like, "Here, take him away," you know,
And the cop's
and he
just
shows
like,
him the jewels.
just too busy
It,
looking at him flying, and you know, of course,
it,
Superman also saves the little kitty cat. Don't forget that.
Oh, not just any cat, one of them
oh,
hairless fuckers. Uh, it was a hairless white
I
cat, and those things are ugly as fuck. Sorry, but
uh,
um.
well, I don't mind what the cat looked like, but I did have a problem with that scene because after the girl got inside, we heard her mother slap her for saying that man flew up and saved the cat. I mean, even if she did just make that up, so what? It's not a reason to slap a child, stupid bitch.
It was just kind of funny for a moment, like the kid had actually told tall tales before.
Well,
Uh,
that's
it,
how it is in the how it was in the '80s. You know,
yeah,
they did things they weren't supposed to do. Lying, basically, she didn't want her kid lying, so that's why she smacked her because she was lying, or she thought. And like I said, yeah, it was definitely more acceptable in the '80s than it would be now.
Um, yeah, I guess, but I don't think it's acceptable in real life. So,
um,
Oh, I got smacked for lying when I was a kid, so yeah, it happened.
yeah, it happened. I mean, my my parents spanked me, so I remember those days. But in any case, uh, so also I guess there were some thieves that ended up stealing some stuff and went to a boat, and you saw Superman stand up on a boat, and then the next there's a scene where they're at the cop shop, and a dude from before is telling him, "Hey, I saw this dude in a flying cape. He looked like a bird," uh, and he's like, "Dude, you've been drinking or something like that. Let's go take care of that." And then they both see that the boat is like right outside. Cops are looking at it like, "What the fuck is it doing here?" And you see him, Superman, flying off, and he's like, "You know what? I'll buy you that drink myself. Let's go." And was there anything else that happened here? Because I feel like I'm missing something. I
oh,
I don't
oh,
think there
oh,
was. Oh,
the airplane.
yeah, the airplane. The airplane. There was an airplane that was in the sky, and uh, it went
That airplane
into.
was Air Force One.
Was it?
Yes, they
Okay.
didn't say Air Force One, so the
Okay.
president was on the plane.
Okay. So the president of this was on the plane. So they experienced some really extreme weather, and uh, all of a sudden one of their engines got blown, and they were heading in a downward spiral, and then all of a sudden Superman was there, righted the plane, and the pilot was like, "Well, what the fuck happened?" And they're like, "You're not going to believe this, but just fly the plane." Trust me. And they keep looking out the side window like they're
Yeah,
not believing
it
it.
was the co-pilot was like, "What the fuck
the
happened?" And the pilot was like, "Just fly. Trust me. Don't look. Just fly." Meanwhile, him and the other guy are looking out the window like, "What the fuck?" And you see Superman flying with the plane.
well, I
And
don't
all
have
of this and all of this happened like in the space of a day. So news flashes on the television were like going constantly. You could tell like everything that he had done. The news people were having a busy time trying to keep up with the fucking shit that was going on. Um, and of course, Lex Luthor hears about this, and um, it's then that he says that he's not believing this whole crap. It's impossible. This man can't be like real and stuff. He's kind of scoffing at the idea of the Superman. And next we get that news a room thing where uh their boss at the Daily Planet, he's definitely not like Jameson. uh, uh,
I was reminded of him a bit.
he's definitely not like Jameson, though. He see Jameson actually wanted to make sure that Spider-Man was the culprit every time.
Oh,
he,
okay, yeah, I forgot that.
he wanted to pin it on Spider-Man all the time because he didn't he denied that he was responsible for saving it. You know,
Yes, and don't call me sugar. I love
Yeah,
the
but
speech.
this guy definitely did something similar where he wanted to know who this man was, who he
What he
was in
does,
real
where he
life.
comes from, what was his favorite, what's his favorite stuff? Does he have a girlfriend? Which Lois smiles because she just saw the note saying, "Meet me at 8 o'clock at your place tonight."
Yeah, I did. I did see that moment where she smiled at the whole girlfriend thing. So, but yeah. So she does wait up at 8, and she's in that blue filmy outfit that kind of looks like a nightgown. She could be in her sleeping clothes, but you know, but in fact, she's waiting up for Clark Kent as for a date. But um, so that's why she's got like 2 glasses and a wine bottle and stuff, and Superman shows up. Um, he invites her for well, actually he allows her to question him, and that's when he does something stupid and tells her about what planet he's from, um because
And even more stupid that he can't see through lead.
oh, oh, so that's how Lex found it all out.
yep,
Yeah, he
because
he, he screwed it up.
yeah, he couldn't keep his mouth shut because he likes Lois Lane so much. But he basically invites her on. This is where we have him doing his Aladdin moment, where he invites her on his magic carpet ride. Oh wait, he is the ride. So uh, he picks her up and
Are you
she
saying
holds
he
on to
wants
her.
her to ride him?
Well, isn't that what happens? Uh,
We
we don't know.
don't see it.
But
Eventually, I think so.
in any case, she holds onto his arm and they fly around well, it's Metropolis, but we know it's New York because there's the Statue of Liberty and that they're flying around, and um and then he brings her back. Actually, she actually falls while in flight, and because her hand just kind of like went out of his grip, and he caught her, and they had this like close moment.
He got a little too cocky with it because he kept slowly letting her hand go lower and lower to it's just her fingertips, and that's when she slipped. That was I definitely blame the Superman on that one. That was his fault. He got a little too cocky there.
Oh yeah, when she started to fall down, and then he caught her and like.
And I was thinking that he was a little slow on that catch too. I mean, Superman's a lot
that
faster
was
than
his
that.
for all intents and purposes. That was his first flight attempt with someone else. So I guess not everyone passes their flying. I think he should have had a flight license in order to have her up there.
My thought was she would have probably had one hell of a PTSD after that. I mean, it's like a near-death experience.
Well, in any case, he floats her back down to the rooftop, and next day, we see a big ass article on the front page saying, "Mine."
I spent the night with Superman.
Which you can take that in so many different ways, because when you say you spend the night with someone, sometimes there's like some X-rated shit going on,
But, sometimes.
Of course, I would say X-rated shit because,
oh, nice one.
But we don't get to see his X-ray eyes until like later movies, though. It's like they finally decide to add those superpowers.
That's not true. You see him looking for the thing to get off the nuclear bomb.
But that's about it. We don't see his laser eyes.
You didn't say his laser eyes. You said his X-ray.
His X-ray, yes, but his laser, his eye lasers.
Powers, like I said. So you said the wrong thing. You said X-ray.
Well, that he does have, but
yes,
not to the extent that we know him to have.
No, he did it exactly.
He's got like Cyclops eyes.
By the way,
he saw right through the cabinets what was in all of them, and then he saw the lead chest, guessing it was in there, and and Lex said, "Don't open that." And then, he does, and he says, "Well, I warned you."
An interesting question, by the way. If that site was X-ray, how can he see colors with that? I mean,
she did ask him she did ask him if he could see what color underwear she had on.
That's my point. I mean, if that was X-ray, he couldn't really determine the color, right?
And he could determine whether she or not.
Why couldn't he see colors? He can see colors. It's not a deficit. It's an extra power. You can see colors.
When she picked up a cigarette to go and smoke, he
checked her for cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the X-ray images are always all in different shades of blue.
That's a machine. That's not Superman's power. That's not Superman's power. That's a machine. Superman's stronger than a machine. Superman has better powers than a machine. The machine, that's all the machine can get. Superman can see colors and see everything anyone else can anymore.
Yeah, but then how can you call that X-ray? Then it should have.
Because that's what it is. Because that's what it is. It's called X-ray vision because you can see through objects.
Yeah. And that's basically what they were able to show that he could do. Plus, that he was faster than the speeding train, and
I don't know where you got this faster than a speeding train, but it's faster than a speeding bullet.
They in the television series. They said faster than a speeding bullet, faster than a speeding train. Look up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's Superman.
Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. He forgot that part.
But yeah, there was a lot of things that they expounded on that they didn't entirely do for this movie. I don't think they did the X-ray laser to his eyes until the third movie, per se. I think, but other than that,
again, it's laser eyes, not X-ray.
Regardless, also, wasn't there something like that he eventually had where he could like blow cold air or some shit, or blow wind or something like that later on?
Yeah, he can blow air and
Okay.
make it as much as he wanted. He could basically make
Could
it cold.
could he blow and could he also
wind.
suck air in?
Yes, he could suck air in too. He could suck and blow.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I had to laugh at that. He could suck and blow, but
he could suck and blow.
Oh boy!
But in any case, yeah, he could suck and blow Lex's Luthor. But anyways, going on. So Lois Lane ends up going off and investigating the unknown person who is buying up desert land in California, which is like on the total opposite end of the country, because and Clark Kent, he comes into the office kind of oblivious as to where Lois Lane is, which is kind of strange because normally he's like following around like a puppy dog. So you'd think that he'd know where she was. But anyways, he comes in asking where she is. He goes to his boss and he tells him that she's off doing this. And suddenly he gets this like screaming sound in his ears, and he hears Lex Luthor's voice over the thing, which basically tells him that he's going to let like some like gas out to like kill people, and so somehow he tracks down Lex Luthor's place, knocks down his door. He threatens a lawsuit against him. I like that. The fact that he said, I'll make sure I'll contact my lawyers.
You will have to pay for that door.
But ultimately, yeah, we have that X-ray moment where he looks around the room, finds the kryptonite, and that's when he sticks the necklace of kryptonite on him, throws him in the pool. And then he goes. Actually, a little bit. Yeah, and a little bit before the whole necklace thing, they have this like whole like talk about what his plans really are. Because he's not stupid. There are these fault lines along the California line that like are the reason why California has their earthquakes and all that jazz. Well, he's going to send some missiles into the fault lines and completely make California disappear. And he's going to set up some resort lines along the coast line, and that's where we get the Otisburg thing. And he's like, "What the fuck is that doing there?"
Yeah, we had Lexington and Lexville and Lexville. I actually thought Otisburg was great. I really liked Otisburg, and so Lex doesn't have a sense of humor at all.
And of course, he can't let his henchmen have any fucking power at all. He's got to have the power.
Yeah, yet he did allegedly name one town after Miss Teschmacher, but not after Otis.
But
It
Otisburg is
just makes
perfect. Otisburg
it just
sounded
makes me
perfect.
think of Lord of the Rings. There is only one Lord of the Ring, and he does not share power. You know. But in any case, moving on. So Superman gets his kryptonite, and he's thrown in the pool, and he's like gasping for air, and that's when he convinces
It's
what's her
just like
name to help him save.
well, you forgot what Lex has said. He's saying the one missile is going to California. He's like, you don't even care where the other one's going. Oh, I know exactly where the other one's going. It's going to Sacramento, California. Which she realizes, she goes, well, Lex, that's where my mother is. And he looks at his watch and looks at her and shakes his head, which I thought was so fucking cold, so fucking cold. And of course,
Yeah.
when she makes him promise that he'll say, well, she kisses him first, and promise that she save her mother first. And of course, he says, "Why did you kiss me first?" Well, I didn't think you'd let me afterwards.
Yeah, like she was apparently worried for
Yeah,
her mother's life, yet
Well,
she had the time to do that.
well, why can't she have a good guy?
yeah. She
You
obviously
know,
why can't she have a good guy like him? And
but in any case,
and she goes
yeah,
back to him anyways in the other movies too.
she did have a nice set of
Oh,
tits. That's
I like Miss Parker. She was good looking. Again, better
but
looking than Lois, in my opinion.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. You liked what?
I liked her set of tits.
Ah,
Her tits, her tatas, her coconuts, her watermelons.
Yeah,
what?
her flesh. Yeah, the parts that you actually did see.
Her knockers.
Her breasts.
Her
Anyways,
booties.
it's all the same to me. Her flashlights, but anyways, um,
Her high beams.
moving on. So he shoots out from there, and we see him get that first rocket or that missile.
Yes,
Um,
yeah.
and I'm actually, I actually think this part is kind of cool because you can actually see like the inside of the engine and a
Well,
little bit.
I kept saying, go faster. Go faster, Superman, go faster.
And he basically takes that thing out of the atmosphere and into space, and then this is where like the Hoover Dam like bursts and water travels down, and it's at this moment where he travels back to the Earth and like goes through like molten lava to try to follow that fault line. Which that part is kind of cool. I actually have to admit that he's flying through this like fiery like tunnel, to
Oh
to try to get to where the fault line is actually whatever. And he actually I do like that moment where it looks like he actually fixes some of it, but a lot of it had already happened already, and he was able to save almost every one that could be saved, and he was able to knock down some rocks to stop the water from going any further, but he was unable
He
to.
also went under the
He
under the earth and into the core to push the body of land back up together.
That's what I
To
was talking
seal
about, the
the
fault
fault
line.
line, to seal the fault line. Yeah,
Yep.
which I thought was awesome. That was great how they did that. Again,
Oh yeah, I agree.
special effects were top notch.
And also, he saved that photographer dude.
That photographer dude. You mean
Yeah,
Jimmy Olsen?
yeah.
Yes.
And he went off to
Oh my.
try to save Lois, but he was a little too late, and that's where we get the first time where we actually see him in pure anger, where he screams at the sky and flies up in anger, and
Oh,
you
that
see him
scream was
spinning
I don't think it
around
was
the earth.
anger. It was more anguish.
Yeah, anger, anguish, kind of the same thing.
They're quite different. You could be angry with someone without feeling any kind of anguish. You probably do feel anger if you feel anguish, but
Well, and
they're not
also
interchangeable.
while he was shooting up into the into space, he kept hearing what his father had told him that
You can't
it is
interfere in the history of humans.
uh,
correct.
oh
It is
yes.
forbidden.
Speaking of which, they said it was forbidden, yet he did that. Nothing bad happened because of it. There weren't any
Well,
consequences.
there's no one else from his planet left alive except for the three imprisoned that he does not know about yet. So,
But what does that have to do with what he did to save
well,
Lois?
if anything, he would have had to answer to the council of on Krypton for
There is no
the whole.
Krypton.
There is no Krypton now, so there's nobody to prevent him from doing anything thing either. So, um, for all intents and purposes, is he can go back and change whatever, and nobody will stop him. At least at this point, So, um, but it was a law on Krypton that you could not change time, anything in history. So that was one of the things that his father tried to instill in him, but he couldn't let Lois die. He couldn't let the love of his life die. So he went
Of
back in
course.
time and saved her.
Yeah, I love how they did it in Smallville. He saves Lana, and then of course he loses his father, and he's not able to save him. Um, so, but that time Jarrell allowed him one save, and he chose Lana, and then his father died, and he couldn't save him.
Yep. And then, of course, we get the whole congratulating your from the city that you saved the world and all that jazz, and that's pretty much the end of the movie, basically. But remember, there's a lot of setup for that second film that we get in the very beginning here.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
So,
great film.
but
I love
in
when
any
that
case,
stupid kid is playing near the Niagara Falls waterfall, and he falls in. Also love when Lois falls in, and, to prove that Clark Kent is really Superman, and he saves her without making her find out.
and Lois, she had just gotten gas from a gas station, which exploded behind her, and all of a sudden,
No.
the lights on the road just started falling in front of her. That was kind of neat. So,
Yeah,
um,
there were a lot of good spud outs in the movie.
yeah, and like I said, I think the part that pissed me off the most was was they made her into a scream queen instead of a feisty New Yorker that we get, like first thing. You think the street smarts would tell her to get the fuck out of the car, but other than that, damsel in distress. I guess she was okay, but let's go into production here. What did you all think about production? How about you, Boris, first?
Well, I actually thought the production was very good, especially the effects with flying and so on. It was really, as you said, ahead of its time. The only moment I had an issue with is when Lois is supposedly dead and so of the car, you can, when her head is supposed to drop down like she is dead, you can clearly see that she is moving her head down on her own, that she's not really dead.
Is there anything
That
else that you liked about the production?
well, I liked the explosions, the spunaus, as I call them, and Uh, yeah, of course, all the effects of Superman showing his powers, it was all really well done for that time. And his X-ray site at Lex Luthor's place, that was also pretty cool. And the fortress in the North Pole, that was also amazing. And
Oh yeah, I agree.
all the setting on Krypton, what it all looked like there, it was also pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. What about you, Clark Kent?
Well, I mean, right from Krypton, like you said, all the Krypton, the planet, the city of Kandor, everything looked absolutely gorgeous. Like I said, I love the ring that was around the Ursa and General Zod and on. It was really cool looking, and then the mirror came
Oh
into
yeah,
there,
the
and
Phantom Zone.
all the crystals that we used and everything they used in the spaceship, like everything they did, they used crystals. I thought that was really neat. I love that. Um, and the production of showing him coming to Earth, uh, and learning the ways. The I think the explosion of Krypton was really good. Maybe the ship crashing to Earth could have been a little bigger, possibly. Um, but I still think it was pretty great. What they did do, and then him slowly learning his powers and running against the train. Of course, we know he can run way faster than that. And his father had said to him, you basically have limitless speed. That being said, he should actually be faster than the Flash. Which obviously they don't show in this movie, but in other iterations they've shown that the Flash is faster, which I've never believed he should be. But at any rate, yeah, the flying was awesome. Like I said, it's cool the way they do the flying now sometimes. But the original what I loved about it is it was so effortless. Like, he didn't bend down, he didn't put his fist into the ground and break it all around. He just flew like a bird, like light as a feather. Just flew right up like it was nothing to him. It was second nature, like breathing. And I really really enjoyed that. I really liked how they did that, and the whole like I said when he caught her, and then caught the helicopter in one hand. The whole scene where the helicopter's falling and stuff, it looks so realistic, and him just grabbing it and flying right back up, saving all the people, as well as having Lois, and then saving the co-pilot saying, this man needs attention. So I said he wasn't dead, because Superman wouldn't have said he needed attention if he was dead. It just and the Fortress of Solitude was so much a reminder of Krypton. It was so incredible that they brought Krypton on Earth, without rooting anything, and brought it out to the basically middle of nowhere, where no one would be able to stumble upon it, and just absolutely gorgeous the way they did it, and like I said, it looks just like Krypton, and he does it with that blue crystal that you see his father putting in his on his ship. One of the last crystals he puts in there, he puts a white one, and then he puts that blue one in there. The whole ship is made up of crystals too. Um, but it's absolutely incredible. And then the way they showed the Earth, the way the earthquakes and and then him fixing the earthquakes and going under the ground, Earth's core and fixing it, and then when he that scene when knows Lois is dead and he screams in anguish and flies so fast around the world that he turns back time and saves her, and
I
you
think that
know
part is
it's
probably one of my favorite
it's
parts.
definitely one of my favorite scenes as well. Um, and just everything, the missile when he's catching the missiles, and yeah, I mean, I can't complain at all with the production. It was so well done, and as much as they've done, like the Man of Steel, it was good, and those other movies, they still haven't really topped what they did originally. I mean, they've done it differently, but I don't think they topped it, and I don't think they could. It's just so well done. That's my opinion on production.
um, I liked a lot of the production of this movie. I think whenever I think of this movie, I think of the strength that small little Kal-El had when he lifted that fucking car, and he just looked
Oh,
at
oh
them.
yeah.
I remember that moment whenever I think of this movie. I think I also remember uh, uh, the whole "I've got you." I know that, but who's got you? Moment.
You got
Uh,
me. Who's got you?
but um, also the little comical notes of Clark Kent, like bumbling around behind her and stuff like that. I remember that. And I specifically remember when he lost Lois and had to like go and spin around the earth to go save her. Um, uh, and I think I also remember like that big ass necklace of kryptonite over his neck and how weak it made him look. So um
Oh yeah.
um
Oh yeah.
and yeah,
On,
you
on
were gonna
that
say?
note, on that note, can you guys allow me to tell you a story? It involves Christopher Reeve. Um,
Sure.
my friend Bobby, who has passed away unfortunately, he used to work for DC as a janitor, and he was I mean security. Sorry, he was asked to escort Christopher Reeve to the Austin so they could discuss Superman 3. So he went in there, he met Christopher Reeve, and he's walking him down to the meeting room. All of a sudden, Christopher Reeve falls down, and he's clutching his chest, and he's showing that he's all weak and he's falling apart and stuff. And my friend's like, "Are you okay, Mr. Reeve? Are you okay? Are you okay?" And he looks up and he points upwards, and my friend follows his finger and looks. It's a statue of Kryptonite. So he's playing his part of Superman, being weakened by Kryptonite, and you know my friend shook his head and laughed and said, "Oh, Mr. Reed, be funny," and held him
So
up.
this must have been before his horse incident
Yeah,
because
like I said, this was when they were before they had done Superman 3. He was going in to discuss Superman 3, so way before the incident of the horse and stuff. So yeah, just wanted to tell that little story of Christopher Reeve, of his sense of humor and how much he loved the role of Superman.
yeah, because later I guess Christopher after the filming of actually not exactly sure when he fell off a horse, but he
It was
fell
after
off a
4.
horse. It was after four, definitely. He couldn't play Superman again after his fall from a horse, and it's because of what happened. Is why for many years he was behind the stem cell research, um, and stuff like that. So, um, but yeah, I did want to mention before we got into our favorites. I do want to mention all the different people that we could have seen in the roles of Superman, possibly Muhammad Ali, Al Pacino, James Caan, Steve McQueen, Clint Eastwood, Dustin Hoffman. They were really gunning for him for a little bit. Leigh Brackett was considered. Alfred Best. Oh no. Let's see. Oh, later on, they asked Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, actually, Arnold Schwarzenegger and who else wanted?
Who?
Just trying to. Oh, casting. Here we go. Paul Newman was offered, but he ended up turning down the role. In fact, Christopher Reeve was Lynn Stalmaster's first suggested choice, but Donner felt he was too young and skinny at the time. Four-time Olympic champion Bruce Jenner auditioned for the title role. Patrick Wayne, who was John Wayne's son, was cast, but then he dropped out when his father was diagnosed with stomach cancer. Both Neil Diamond and Arnold Schwarzenegger lobbied hard for the role, but they were ignored.
Thank goodness.
James Caan, James Brolin, Lyle Waggoner, Christopher Walken, Nick Nolte, John Voight, Perry King were approached. Chris Christopherson and Charles Bronson were also considered for the role. Warren Beatty was offered the role but turned it down.
Good.
Whoa.
So
Interesting.
yeah, these
Well,
were
Warren Beatty
all
was in the movie,
possibilities. Oh, and originally they wanted to film some of this in Italy, but there was a sex charge against Marlon Brando at the time for his film The Last Tango in Paris. He had a role in that film, and evidently he might have sexually abused someone on set or something like that, and he was wanted for criminal charges in Italy for that. So they couldn't do that there, which apparently he got like $3.7 million for that role. Gene Hackman also got like maybe like 1.5 million to maybe 2 million for his role. And from what I understand, I believe Christopher Reeve got $250,000 for both roles.
That's it.
Huh?
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. So, other than that, let's go into favorite scenes. So let's start. I'll do sure music. John Williams, who did Star Wars, I believe. Was it John Williams who did Star Wars? Yeah.
That explains why this music and Star Wars one sound so similar.
But they do, they definitely have a distinct sound. I mean, they are similar. But when you hear this music, you know it's Star Wars or it's Superman. It's very distinct, and I would have to say that the music is just as powerful and just as good in this movie as it is in Star Wars. And you all know how I feel about Star Wars. But the music is perfect. It's just incredible. It's great. From opening to end and everything in between is perfect. The music when you see Otis, kind of like bumbly like music, a little evilish but bumbling, this kind of music. I don't know how to explain it, but it's perfect for Otis. And, it's just all the music in it is just so great. Of course, sound effects are great. Like I said, they didn't go overboard with the sound effects. They kind of went with simplistic sound effects, which I thought was great, which I like better than what they've done nowadays.
I love how there's a moment where there's a guy that just kind of tries to hit him with a crowbar and it just doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Oh, and it vibrates on the boat. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and Superman actually said something to that effect. What, do you have a problem with vibrations? But um, yeah, I like the music behind it. I mean, I remember thinking that at the time that was the music for Superman. So I do like the music when he's flying, the music when he's actually the superhero. And it really works for his character. Going into favorite scenes. How about you, Boris? Um, if you could choose a favorite character and favorite scene, what would it be?
Well, favorite character, well, Superman would be the obvious choice, but aside from him, I also liked Lex Luthor because of his humor. And favorite scene, well, I could name several. I liked when Lois kicked the gun out of the mugger's hand. That was good. Also, the scene with Mr. Schmucker saving the Superman from the pool. That was amazing. And, well, of course, the scene when he turned back time to save Lois. Ooh, all the spoonouts and explosions, of course.
You have a million voices screamed out at once and then suddenly silenced. Oh, wait, that's different.
That's Star Wars. Of course, you could probably say that for that moment when
Well, there's
Krypton
nobody.
was,
There's
was
nobody that could.
destroyed.
There's nobody that could hear.
Oh, yes.
To say it.
When Krypton was destroyed, that's when you hear in your voice Obi-Wan Kenobi saying,
Yeah.
"I felt something like 1,000 voices screaming.
A million voices
voices
screamed out and suddenly silenced."
Yeah.
But yeah, what about you, Clark Kent? Favorite character, favorite scene?
Superman, of course. Clark Kent, Superman. And the scene I gotta go with the most nostalgic scene when he flies up and catches her and says, "I got you," and she says, "You got me. Who got you?" Gotta be my favorite scene. And then of course, also when he finds her dad and he screams in agony and anguish and flies around the world and reversing Earth's orbit and then able to save her. Definitely the best scenes in the movie.
I just remembered I forgot to mention one of my favorite characters. Although we don't get to see her that much in this movie, but Ursa. I remember I liked her a lot in the second one because she is so badass and destroys everything with ease, and I really like.
It's funny how she's a man hater, yet her other sidekick is a man, and she follows General Zod, a man. I play a game called DC Legends, and she just came into the game, and basically she's left Zod, and she's all women power now, which she kind of should be because she's always been a man hater. Why would she associate with you men?
Mhm.
Well, I always like powerful female characters, so no matter if they're heroes or villains, I like characters like
I
her a
do, but I
lot.
don't ever root for the villain.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said I do, but I never root for the villain, male or female.
Fair. I'm sometimes.
Trying to think. I know that I do like the whole anguish scene where he goes and flies up and spins around the world. I love that moment. I love the fault line scene where he goes through the core. I do like that whole flight that he does with Lois, even though he purposely drops her.
I don't think he
um,
does it on purpose. I think he wasn't paying attention. And then, of course, you can read her thoughts. Can he read my thoughts? Does he know what I'm saying? Blah, blah, blah. No, he has a mind reader. Shut up. That was kind of stupid. But,
Yeah, apparently there one of the cuts that was eventually going to go on TV. They were going to cut that whole
I think they
like
did cut
mine
it.
scene.
I think they did cut it in
Oh,
the TV scenes.
oh yeah, I forgot
Um,
to say I actually liked the flying scene a lot too, and Lois's outfit in that scene was also beautiful, which we were mentioning it earlier.
and I did like the little kid holding up the car. To me that and the fact
Yeah.
that he was butt ass naked uh, for when he came out of the pit, you know. Um, but other than that,
You like
those are a lot
that?
of my favorite. Well, for some reason, it's just a little
Were you
comical.
were you a priest in a former life?
What? No. I just thought it was kind of comical that that they go over to the pit and they see his small wanker. You know, it's like
All I can think about is, don't you watch horror movies? Never go to the big pit.
right.
Yeah.
Didn't you see War of the Worlds? Jesus Christ. But anyways, favorite character. It's in between being Superman and I did as a female like Miss Testmaster, you know. Eve, that's not
Pepperka!
the right name, but she was played by actress Valerie Perrin, which even older she looks rather decent.
Damn,
So
he likes little boys and old women.
no, believe it or not, there is an actual statue in I'm trying to think Australia that is of a little child standing naked pissing, and it's called the Australian piss beer. Evidently, a father
I
had
bet a father.
had was the architect. He loved the look of his child so much that he created the statue of his naked child. I just always thought that was funny, and it just reminds me of the whole Superman child coming out of the pit for some reason.
Well, okay, I can understand that someone would want to make a statue of their child, but why naked? Jeez.
Right?
Yeah.
I agree, but in any case, yeah, Other than that, did anyone else have anything else to add to the film?
Probably not.
All righty. Well,
Pretty much said
Look!
everything I needed to say, I think.
look up in the sky. It's a bird.
It's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's a plane.
No, it's
Superman.
Superman. Anyways, hopefully you folks have enjoyed our discussion for today. I had a blast. Hopefully you guys did too. Let us know down in the comments what you thought of the film, whether you you think it still holds up to this day, and we'll be back next week as we discuss Batman the movie next week.
The original,
the original
1966
1960. Yep. So stay tuned. We'll definitely be having an interesting time then too. So
bam,
everyone
power,
say good night.
pow. They don't say spit out, but they could have.
Yeah.
Everyone say good night.
Good night.
Good night, John Boy.
Good night.